We're going to start the next talk, and now that we're tiring you out, we're going to talk about wellness now. And then my last talk is going to be talking about some stuff that I'm sure you're going to want to know. We're going to save the best for the last. But this talk here, you should know, this is for those people who want to live, or if they're sick, they want to live longer. It's living, basically, solutions to wellness challenges in a toxic world. And once you see this, you realize why the medical system is so goddamn corrupt. And when I say that, I'm not saying it to be obscene. I'm saying it because my doctor colleagues and my medical board in the state of Colorado are a bunch of criminals. The hospital-based systems, the big pharma and big chema, these people are criminals on the level of Dr. Mengele. They would make any of the high priests in any ancient civilization cry for the horrendous horrors that have been perpetrated by these monsters. For example, the war against pain doctors, and a good part of my practice is pain medicine, and the war against pain patients is because the government, the DEA and the Department of Justice, brings the drugs into America to the tune of $500 billion to $250 billion per year. You need to know the primary thing funding these weird projects like human cyborg research, underground cities, off-world facilities, etc., and Star Wars-based weapon systems is not through oversight by the Senate Arms Committee of the Senate or the Congress. It is brought in under the military-industrial mind control complex corporations, transnational corporations, and these secret brotherhoods who are above the government. And it was spoken of by Eisenhower. This is reality. This is not an imaginary thing. This is a real catastrophe we're facing. So I hope my thing keeps on getting sleepy. Now, you're not going to get sleepy on me. Solutions to wellness. Now, everybody can see that. And the types of pollution challenges, and we're dealing with toxic heavy metals and chemicals in the air, food and water. Excitotoxins, does anybody know what it is? An excitotoxin is a toxin that excites your brain and makes it fire. It brings what's called an action potential. Xenoestrogens are molecules that look like hormones, but they aren't. Like xenoestrogen looks like estrogen molecules, so it's feminizing fish, it's feminizing men. In places like in London, England, where they recycle the water, the xenoestrogens and the birth control pill and the other chemotherapy and the other toxic things put in the water, like dumped from fertilizer plants and fuel rod production facilities, literally is rewiring the brains of men. And the reason why we have so much prostate and other cancer, a good part of it is in fact caused by xenoestrogens. Sulfuryl fluoride, I'm sorry that was a misspelling there, but sulfuryl fluoride is just approved spraying of our crops, which means you can get more fluoride by eating your veggies than brushing your teeth now. Fluoride is toxic, and it destroys the pineal gland, which is the connection between the pineal, which is, of course, if you study, and I'll use the term chakra, although I'm not a Buddhist. I know information that's well beyond the level of the Buddhists. But the upper chakra, if you want to call it, really is not a chakra. It's actually just the point at which the silver cord is attached between your bioplasmic spirit body and your physical body through the pineal gland. And that connection is made through the pineal. Does that make sense? That if you see water, and why you look at all the sacred temples through all history, they're all made in the sacred architecture of Psi and Phi, which is why all the ancient societies had sacred mathematical schools. So you look at the Pythagoreans, the ancient societies in China and elsewhere, they knew that if you made archetypes and shapes of objects made of stone and other objects, including certain metallic ions and the mineral content of you were able to actually create what's called scalar archetypes that you could create certain biological effects. Does that make sense? So what they did is, that's why you'll see, if you look at Masomoto's work on water, for example, one of the things that we'll be putting on our website soon are special wands from Global Light Network that can actually change the structure of the water to help with specific conditions, because the way your body works is through scalar physics, and I'm going to talk about that here a little later in the second talk. Electromagnetic pollution, thermal and non-thermal. We're going to have Dr. Carlo, who was hired by the cell phone companies to do research on it, and cell phones cause scalar interference. They have sideband microwaves and other frequencies that actually talk at the same frequencies that your cells talk to each other. And the way they talk, and the best way to think of it is if you think of the biomolecules as tuning forks welded to a rail. And if you hit one tuning fork with a pulse of energy, that energy jumps down the rail, and it actually jumps down the rail at the speed of light. It's a phonon, meaning a coherent sound, and it's a maser or mazed infrared light. So it has both light and sound properties. That's how all life forms talk to each other. The backbones of those molecules, the piperidine and the cyclical side groups, including the phenyl groups on all of the amino acids and side groups and altered amino acids along all biomolecules, create specific harmonic frequency spectra, which the concentration shifts depending on the concentration in the cells. And the cell membrane acts as a membrain, which allows it to actually speak as a liquid crystal microprocessor. And your DNA is a downloadable core of memory. So in other words, most of your DNA is what's called phonon maser DNA. I know I'm speaking above the heads of some, but that phonon maser DNA, what it does, can you see that? The genes are controlled by stimulation or induction of toxins and nutrients. So if you have these scalar signals from either minerals or toxins in the environment, they actually switch on certain genes or switch them off. So you can be hit by a light, by a sound, or by a scalar interferometry wave that can be created by a beat frequency using interferometry technologies, using microwaves and other technology. For example, when I came back from Georgia and worked from 1988 to 1994 in Halifax International Airport at the Pratt & Whitney Jet Aircraft Parts Plant and the AirTech Business Park, it turned out it was actually an offshore CIA directed energy weapons project, not just making vanes for high-speed jet aircraft for the U.S. Air Force. What they were doing is making tunable sideband microwave frequencies that could be used to cause cells to go through apoptosis by hitting what's called the harmonic giant wave frequency effects on DNA to cause the DNA to unzip the non-covalent bonding and cause cells to go through programmed cell death or apoptosis. They were used on the Abrams tank and the Apache helicopters in Gulf War I. What would happen after 2 to 3 minutes when Iraqi was hit by this up to 5 to 8 miles away? They would go blind and start vomiting. Within 5 to 10 minutes, they'd start bleeding from all orifices. Within 15 to 30 minutes, they would be dead, and all of their cells turned to slime because the cells would digest themselves. These would go through the side of a mountain, building, or tank, and they were quite a bit different than the crispy critters effect from bouncing depleted uranium hot rounds that were pyrophoric depleted uranium that would burn at 4,000 to 6,000 degrees with nanoparticles that would literally turn them into crispy critters. Or the other weapons they tried in Iraq, which are called C3, which is a plasma gun that shoots a plasma bottle of high energized plasma electrons at the target at the speed of light and vaporizes it at 11 million degrees, or other technologies which they used in Iraq, including focused microwave energies that can burn your skin at 130 degrees so you feel like you're on fire, or they can cook you instantly and make a 270-pound man shrink to the size of an infant within about 30 seconds. So they had all these technologies. They've also used what's called microwave bombs in Lebanon recently, well, along with the GBU-38. These microwave bombs cause a burst of microwave energy. So anybody within a radius of, say, 150 to 300 yards, all of their organs will burst, not from a thermal effect, but from a microwave-induced organ explosion. And they did this on the people and the civilian populations as an experiment in conjunction with the Israeli forces. This is an idea of the extent of the evil of our government. And the government is planning to use a lot of these, quote, non-lethal weapons, many of the non-lethal ones. Their definition of non-lethality is that it kills less than 26% of the people that are hit with the weapon. But they use a very wide range of, how can I say it, fudging of those numbers, including things like tasers, which kill a lot of people. You need a lot more than that. Okay, let's go on. So the membranes, the cell membranes actually are really interesting. The cell membrane is a very interesting thing. Here we go. Okay. Now, so all organs and living things literally talk to each other. Now what happens is the new satellite system, the Teledesic and Globalstar satellites, actually are speaking now at the range at which our cells talk to each other, and all living things like trees grow, coral reefs grow, whales talk. In fact, whales are an animal very similar to us. They live in hyperdimensional space, which means they don't just live in the physical world like we do. We also live in hyperdimensional space, but we're told that we don't, that we're not a spirit being. They're often suppressed as children and told that you're not to be like that.